from you as well. If we could get some more responses, we actually have had response on Facebook and Twitter. So if we could get some more of that, we would really enjoy it, and we could eventually, if we can get enough feedback, create a segment based on you guys.
Yep.
So, which would be much more interesting than me ranting.
Exactly. Because, I mean, without you guys, there's no point in us having a show. So.
Exactly. So we're going to go to a song, and then we will be back after this. Marcus, you've got our next subject.
I do. It seems like, to me, it's been a while, but the flood here in eastern Iowa, I don't know for those of you that are in central Iowa, the flood here is still a big deal. They're still repairing it. You know, the damage is still catastrophic, but I actually, for one, when I was home this summer, I didn't know that they were still had much going on here.
Oh yeah, we don't have the basement of our IMU yet, our union yet. So.
Yep. So that's hopefully something that'll get done here in a while. But
what were you saying?
Oh, there are people in Cedar Rapids that are still living in those FEMA trailers that were provided to the flood victims, and so they've been living there since 2008, right? For about a year, or was it? When was the flood? Yeah, 2008.
2007.
Was it 2007?
Mm-hmm. It was the end of our freshman year. Oh, wait.
No,
that was
2008. Yeah, okay. I was saying it's been a year. Yeah. I don't know. Time
what
runs.
Is wrong with me?
I don't know. I it's the same problem. It's
okay, moving on.
Time flies when you're in college.
FEMA house.
Anyway, so the flood-dispersed residents that are living in these FEMA trailers have been living in these trailers for free for a year, right? And this is a typical procedure, but starting November 27th, you either have to get out or pay rent. And the rent that you will have to pay is what they call a fair market rate, which is set by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. In the Cedar Rapids market, it's going to be $649 for a 2-bedroom trailer and $920 for a 3-bedroom trailer. This is standard procedure going back to, if you guys remember, Greenburg, Kansas was destroyed in a tornado in May of 2007. They also got a year to live in these trailers, and then they were forced to pay rent or leave. In the summer of 2008, so right after the flood, there was a peak of 564 families living in these trailers. There are 124 now, as of last week.
Okay.
So that's a little bit of a background on these FEMA trailers. Do you think they should be forced to pay rent? And why?
I would say that I don't think it should be fair market, but I think that they should have to pay rent, but not fair market rate, because that's awfully high for people who, obviously, if they're not out of there by now, are having some problems. And I know that, although I kind of disagree, Senator Chuck Grassley came out today and said that, he came out today and said that the rent should be pushed off and held off for a while longer.
Because, I mean, there are still people struggling, especially in a time like this when the economic conditions are so poor. Mm-hmm. They still can't find jobs.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for them to, because it moves beyond a point where FEMA is no longer being FEMA, and so that they should be paying rent because they're there to respond to an emergency. After a year, the emergency, although you still are feeling the effects, I think FEMA needs to be heading out, moving on. They have other things to do, and they can't have the expense of leaving these homes here when something could happen and they're going to be needed somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Some other things are going to be needed from FEMA. So why not? Why should they not give not $645 or whatever, $649, but $200, like $300, maybe $300 would be the highest.
Maybe you could find some way to find a.
These are low income people.
To find some proportion of their income or whatever they have, but if they don't get out in time, you're going to make them wards of the states, and they're just going to be,
exactly. Kicking them out isn't going to do anything because if they can't afford to move, because $649 is quite a bit for a rent if that's the monthly rate.
Yeah, that's the monthly rate.
And I'm pretty sure my apartment is nicer than this FEMA house, and I pay less.
It's just crappy, I'm sure, but it's a place to live. So FEMA has, kind of not explicitly said this, but they're interested in making sure that the people that use these places are actually needing them. And as with any kind of government, I don't want to say handout, but that's really what it is.
Oh, yeah. No, it is. That's
people are going to use it until they cannot. Mm-hmm. So of these 124 families, what do you think the just a ballpark? I know you're not an expert and don't know anything what's going on. What do you think?
How do you extend the pontification?
Yes, session. I know. I'm sorry.
That needs a new name so badly.
Yes, it does. Anyway, How many of these people do you think are actually needing it, and how many people are just using it because it's there? Just guess.
Oh, no idea. I have no idea. Probably 100. I bet.
So you think that the stark majority of the families that are left are using it just because it's there?
I'm being optimistic in that these are good people. So I'd like to think that only like 24 families might be there who don't need to be there. They might think they need to be there. I bet.
Right.
I mean, there could be one of those issues that goes on that can happen.
Yeah.
You've seen evidence that happens sometimes when people are put on welfare. They think I can't move beyond this kind of a thing. But I would hope that probably maybe 80 to 100 of those homes or families, I should say. Sorry.
And do you think that the either the state government, the federal government, or the FEMA organization should go through a case-by-case study, not necessarily an in-depth study, but find out if these 124 people are using them, or if they're just, are they using them because they're free, or are they needing them? And if they're actually needing them, should they, take that a step further and find a fair rate for them to pay that they can afford? Or should they just say, out by November 27th and pay this much? Or pay this much, rather? I
think that if they were going to lower it, that would be necessary. But this strategy, it has to work. Yeah. It's gonna kick, I assume, all of them out. But, which might be what they want. They might need that, like I said. They might need it for something else.
I don't know. It's interesting because you have to, you don't want to seem like this cold government. That's like, here, we'll help you, and then just get out of here.
Exactly. I think, if they have someone who can do a case-by-case thing, absolutely. See, I don't want that to become a
standard
unnecessary bureaucratic thing that goes on.
See, that's what I worry about. But when you have such a small number of 124, if you spend, an hour,
you could probably do a week.
You could probably do it in a week, and you could determine. Because I don't want people that are using it for free. But if there's people who legitimately need it, who are still ravaged by the flood, which there certainly are people in Cedar Rapids in eastern Iowa that are still ravaged by this flood, and they still have nothing, then I don't think it's fair that you should charge them $600 a month because they have nowhere else to go. I'm sure you can get a nicer place for that amount of money, but they don't have that amount of money to spend.
Exactly. So I don't think that I guess we agree. The rent should not be $649. And then if they can do it, if they have a person to do it, then FEMA should just go case by case and then kick those people out who obviously don't need it. And you could ask them, what do you do for a living? There's a lot of things you can figure out. You can do the math. And figure out if they're just abusing the system or not. So,
right. But the thing that goes in favor of them for this just cut deadline is that was told to them as soon as they moved in that they were going to have this temporary housing until then.
Yeah.
So let's move on to our next article.
Moving to the next subject, yes. Could you explain this one? Because I'm not completely up on this. Lynn County is going to get some new software for their city elections.
Yep. Lynn County is going to get electronic software for their new city elections. I think it's just for city council and maybe mayor. I'm not exactly sure. Basically, the software would have all the registered voters and make sure only registered voters could vote at their correct precincts, and then would count their vote and then make sure that there was no way to double count that vote. They're going to have 3 different locations for these, so I don't think that's all of the precincts. So my thing is, since this is new and experimental and it is an election, so it is very important what the people think. Do you think that that Lynn County should have some kind of contingency plan, like have in these areas have the electronic and the paper, and ask people to vote twice, but make sure that you don't double count the vote, but you match the paper and the electronic totals to make sure that there's no glitches in the system or any kind of technical failure? Or
I think doubling it up is a good way to check it, but. Do you really need this much to go into a city election?
Yeah, but
if you're that unsure, if you have to do the entire other system on top of that system, is your new system really that nice?
Well, I think
is it really worth implementing if it's not that accurate?
Yeah, that's what you're going into. But I don't know if it's a test or if it's actually like they're going to use this. I think if you're going to, use this, the way I think it's like a trial.
They're not testing it on a real
no,
election.
I know what I mean. And I guess it's not.
Like you mean just like kind of taking it for a run?
Yeah, because they're only
see if it'll
because they're only doing it in 3 of their polling locations. I think because that makes it seem like it's a trial run or part of that. And if you're going to have a trial run, you need to have a backup paper
Well, then
ballot
if it's a
just
trial,
in case.
it sounds like it's